the greatest of all time. Lionel Messi is the greatest of all time. I hope that everyone is listening, because I don't want to have to repeat myself once again. Let me read you some quotes that only one man has been able to make true footballing legends utter. For me, to watch him is a pleasure. It's like having an Luis Figo. Once they said, you can only stop me with a pistol. Today, you need a machine gun to stop him. Hristo Stoichkov. Don't write about him. Don't try to describe him. Just watch him. Pep Guardiola. And finally, arguably the greatest, or at least most influential man to ever grace football through what he's achieved as a player and a manager, Johan Cruyff once said 3 words that perfectly articulate the man you see on screen now. He is incomparable. Because to be honest, he is. You can't compare him to anything in life, because everything you ever face means different things to different people. £1 million to a billionaire is like a tenner to you and me. There is only one word fit to describe Messi, and that is by calling him the greatest. Picture the thing that brings you the most joy in your life, the thing that you wake up for in the morning, whatever it is, that if you lost it, you would never truly be the same. Whatever you're imagining right now is to you what Lionel Messi is to football. Now let me make one thing clear. Winning the World Cup is not the deciding factor that made Leo Messi the greatest of all time, but it sure didn't hurt his case. This is the story of a little boy from Rosario named Lionel Andres Messi. On the 24th of June 1987, the youngest of 3 boys would be born to a modest family in La Bajada, a neighbourhood in the south of Rosario. From the day he could walk, there seemed to be a ball at his feet, or more literally at his knees, as this boy was smaller than most. In fact, it would be his diminutive stature which shaped his future in one of the most remarkable and unlikely ways. In case you somehow couldn't tell, the boy I'm talking about is Lionel Messi, and at the age of just 4, Leo and his grandmother would find themselves at a youth game for local side Grandoli. Leo was on the sidelines kicking a ball onto a wall when his grandmother noticed the coach of the side was pacing up and down before kickoff. It turns out that Grandoli were missing a player, and so the coach not wanting to let everyone else down, he was stressed and didn't know what to do. This is where Leo's grandmother comes in, as she pleaded with the coach to let her grandson play. However, Salvador Aparicio, the coach, was reluctant, stating that Messi was too small and would get hurt. After a few minutes, grandmother Messi had finally convinced Aparicio, who said, okay, but I'm putting him on the right wing near the touchline, so when he cries, you can take him off yourself. But that wouldn't be a problem Leo's grandmother would have to face. In fact, it would be Aparicio reduced to tears in an interview in 2008, where he was able to recollect on Messi's first game, and how he became the first man to ever coach the world's greatest footballer. Aparicio would say the first time the ball came to Messi, he was so small it would basically hit the entirety of his left leg, but the second time, well, just the second time Lionel Messi would ever receive the ball in a game, he dribbled around an entire team of players years older than him. In the less than 3 years Messi spent at Grandoli, he would score 6 or 7 goals a game, and unsurprisingly, it wouldn't take long for him to be noticed elsewhere. At just 6 years of age, Lionel Messi joined the youth setup of Newell's Old Boys, and the career of little Lionel would be decided from then onwards. Whether it was playing in 7 or 11-a-side games, nobody could stop Messi. Whether there was 10 yards to goal or 1,000, he would find a way through. And in his youth setup, he was part of the team which went years unbeaten, with Leo scoring a reported 500 plus goals in his time there. But between the ages of 11 and 14, Messi would face various struggles. When he was 11, his grandma would pass away, with her being the thing that gave him the most support in his football. His grandma had been there for him since his first ever game, and losing her was an indescribable pain for Leo. Of course, life would have to go on, but it was a lot harder for little Leo. See, there's one specific thing so interesting about Messi, and it's the reason I've been calling him Little Leo throughout this video. He was remarkably small. In fact, doctors had diagnosed him with a growth hormone disorder at the age of 9, when Leo was just 3'7", stating that without medication, he would grow to be no taller than 4'9" as an adult. His father's health insurance had managed to cover 2 years of treatment, but by the year 2000, with Lionel Messi just 13 years old, his family were now paying for the medication, but were struggling to afford it with their modest wages. Newell's Old Boys weren't willing to fork out the money, and so with Messi now being famous across the country, other clubs had heard about his precarious situation, one of which being Buenos Aires Giants, River Plate, who originally agreed to pay for his medication, but later pulled out, and said the family would have to cover the cost themselves. The Messis were devastated, but they had one last hope: their Catalonian roots. The Messi family had relatives in Barcelona who were able to arrange a trial for Leo, and just like that, they took the biggest risk of their lives and moved across the world to northern Spain, where after a few successful trials, the family gave Barcelona an ultimatum: sign Lionel and cover the cost of his medication, or they go back to Rosario and Barcelona miss out on one of the brightest prospects in world football. And so in a local restaurant where the ultimatum was made, first team director Carlos Rexach scrambled for a napkin as he had no paper, scribbling down a rough contract to sign the player, and just like that, football changed forever. Now nearly 14, in 2001 Lionel Messi had joined a very strong team in La Masia, featuring stars like Cesc Fabregas, Gerard Piqué, and a man destined for greatness, Victor Vázquez. You might not know who this is, but his story is very interesting, and I'll cover it at a later date on the channel. Anyways, back to Messi. Even after joining Barcelona, his struggles weren't over, as his family who had joined him in Spain would be split up, with his mother and siblings forced to move back to Rosario, with Leo's father staying with him in Barcelona. Messi would struggle without the support of his family, but having made his decision to give it all at Barcelona, he knew he had to work harder than ever before to make sure he didn't waste the sacrifices his family, and particularly his father, had made for him. He was part of a youth team called the Class of '87, which would win it all. The group became the first to win an unprecedented treble at youth level, and had become famous worldwide, with the biggest teams in the world looking in envy, hoping to poach some of their stars, and that is exactly what would happen. With English football a decade into the Premier League by 2002, the increased financial gain had started to help clubs in England's top flight pull away from the pack, and so with that came the increased risk to Barcelona that their best ever youth team would be picked apart. Cesc Fabregas would leave for Arsenal, with Gerard Piqué on his way to Manchester United, and when Arsenal came back for Lionel Messi, Barcelona knew they had to act quickly, with Lionel Messi having two offers on the table. He could either join Cesc Fabregas for a year in Arsenal's youth side, with a route through to the Premier League in their second season, or he could accept a professional contract that the Blaugrana gave to him. I'm sure you'll all know which option he chose. After signing a professional deal, Messi would play for 5 Barcelona teams in just 1 year, including in the professional leagues of Barcelona C and B. And on the 16th of November 2003, Messi would play for the Barcelona first team for the first time ever, facing Porto in a friendly. After an impressive display for the first team, Messi went back to playing for Barcelona C, where in the Youth Copa del Rey, he would score 4 goals in 19 minutes against Sevilla, where he was being man-marked by a young Sergio Ramos, the first of a number of iconic clashes between the pair. After even more incredible performances, it wouldn't take long for Messi to start playing for Barcelona B more commonly, where his release clause would finally increase from €30 million up to 80. It's pretty crazy to think that you could have signed a 16-year-old Messi for less than Andy Carroll about 5 years later. Now there's one thing I need to mention about Lionel Messi's growth hormones. Despite them having succeeded in bringing him up to a suitable enough height, they'd also had significant effects on his overall health. Throughout his youth career, and even up until the age of 22 or 23, Leo would struggle with constant vomiting. He ate poorly, and that of course wouldn't have helped his situation, but he was abnormally ill, which is just one of various examples which point towards the hormones having affected him. Messi was also weaker than his opponents, and would struggle with the physicality of those around him in senior football, meaning that he would spend hours and hours in the gym, working on increasing his muscle mass to help him shake off defenders. If we fast forward near 20 years, never had this effort been more obvious than in the World Cup, where his upper body strength, mixed with his low centre of gravity and balance, made him unstoppable. Fast forward to October 2004, and the senior players at Barcelona were begging manager Frank Rijkaard to promote Messi to the senior team. They had trained with him numerous times over the last year or so, and knew what he offered. And so finally, Leo joined the first team officially. At the time, Ronaldinho was a star in Barcelona. He did things nobody had ever seen somebody do with the football before him, and every week, near 100,000 people would enter Camp Nou to catch a glimpse of the brilliant Brazilian. But little did they know that on the opposite wing, coming off the bench, on the 16th of October 2004, in a routine win against local rivals Espanyol, they were watching a man make his competitive debut for the Blaugrana, who would accomplish everything Ronaldinho had, and so much more. It's stated that Ronaldinho was huge for Messi during this period, and was the life of the dressing room. As we know, Messi was a shy character, and so every day Ronaldinho would check up on the starlet, making sure he was settling in okay with the rest of the team, giving him a sense of comfort he may have been missing without him. And so after making 6 La Liga appearances and his Champions League debut over the course of the season, Messi came on for his final appearance of the campaign in a 1-0 win against Albacete. Entering the pitch in the 88th minute for Samuel Eto'o, Messi was just there to see the win over the line, but then just moments later, he would receive a lobbed ball from Ronaldinho on the edge of the area, chipping it over the keeper and putting the ball in the back of the Camp Nou net for the first time ever. It would then be wrongly disallowed as offside. No worry though, as a minute later, Ronaldinho had once again chipped the ball over the defenders, as Lionel Messi once again lobs it over the keeper and into the back of the net, scoring a near identical goal, which this time stood. And so just like that, Lionel Messi wrote himself into the history books for the first time in his Barcelona career. Now I don't need to tell the rest of his club level story. All of you watching have been graced with the opportunity to watch this beautiful story unfold, where a tiny magician dazzled the world for 2 decades, scoring more goals than anyone on the planet in that time frame, where for the large majority he was battling it out with Cristiano Ronaldo as to who would be seen as the best on the planet. Ronaldo is the only person to come close to Lionel Messi's goal scoring, and when I say close, I mean close. Since Messi's first goal for the Barcelona first team, he has scored 793 professional goals. Ronaldo has 792. In fact, it would be this moment where Messi put Argentina 3-2 up in the most important game of his life that he overtook Ronaldo. For so long, these two would fight for the top spot, and in recent times we've seen Ronaldo lose some of the respect he deserves. But since CR7 left Real in 2018, it's been clear to the large majority of football's fan base that Messi has proven himself as the greatest of this generation, and pretty much everyone before him. After being neck and neck for so long, Messi pulled clear, to a certain extent leaving Ronaldo in his shadow. But Messi and his legacy were in their own level of darkness, cast by two of the former century's greats, Pele and Maradona, both of which saw success at club, but more importantly, international level. And when compared to Maradona specifically, for years, Diego was widely regarded as the better player by most of his country's population. That was up until the 2014 World Cup, of course. Lionel Messi had carried Argentina through to the final of the World Cup, in their Brazilian rival's own backyard, and if he could beat Germany, he would eclipse the achievements of the great Maradona, bringing Argentina their third star in even more iconic fashion. But it wasn't meant to be. 2014 was roughly midway through Messi's international career thus far, which for so long was filled with anguish. In 2006, after becoming the poster boy for the entire Germany World Cup, he would be left on a bench, as Argentina saw their only ever penalty shootout defeat at the World Cup, with hundreds of millions of fans worldwide perplexed as to why we never saw him on the pitch. A year later, as a 20-year-old, Messi scored goals in every single knockout game en route to the Copa America final, where he faced defeat to arch-rivals Brazil. 2010 came round, and with Maradona as his manager, Messi failed to score a single goal at the World Cup, as Argentina were embarrassed by Germany, who, as we know, beat them again 4 years later. In between the two World Cups, Messi saw penalties once again get the better of his Argentine side, as they were beaten in the first knockout round of the Copa America. Of course, I have forgot to mention, Messi had picked up Olympic gold in 2008, but it was never something that was going to define an international career, especially given how many times Messi had failed by now. But in 2015 and 2016, Lionel Messi would face the worst losses of his international career thus far, losing in back-to-back Copa America finals, both to underdogs Chile, both from penalties, both deemed huge failure. In fact, after the second of these two finals, Messi retired from international football with his heart broken, having scored 5 goals in the tournament, but missing his spot kick when it mattered most. Oh, and to rub salt into the wounds, this was the same year where Cristiano Ronaldo won the Euros with Portugal. Lionel Messi received backlash from across the world, and it just seemed like life wasn't fair. In Europe, Real Madrid fans savoured every Messi failure. In his own home country, he was despised by many. He was supposed to be the next Maradona. He was supposed to bring glory back to Argentina. Throughout all these years, the Argentine love for Maradona had never faded. But it had been 30 years since Diego's iconic 1986 World Cup, and the Argentines were tired of this feeling. It was this constant comparison to Maradona, the constant feeling that he wasn't worthy of being seen as an Argentine great, that pushed Messi back into international football. It wouldn't be long before Messi was back, but once again, it wouldn't be long before he saw heartbreak once again. In 2018, they lost to France in the World Cup quarters, and in 2019, they lost in the Copa America semi-finals to Brazil, watching their biggest rivals celebrate victory yet again. It took 2 years before we'd see another international competition, and at the same time as England and Italy saw a resurgence making the Euros final, Lionel Messi led an Argentinian comeback. Decades had passed since true glory for the country, but on the 10th of July 2021, in the Maracanã, home of Brazilian football, Lionel Messi and Argentina had finally done it. They beat Brazil 1-0 in the Copa America final, and just like that, a huge weight was off the shoulders of a little magician. With a team willing to die for him by his side, Lionel Messi had his eyes on the biggest prize 1 year later, and after an absolute whirlwind of emotions across 4 weeks for Argentina and 16 years for Lionel Messi, La Pulga lifted the World Cup to the sky, surely bringing joy to his grandmother and reaching the heights of Diego Maradona. For a decade and a half, Lionel Messi's international career was seen as a disappointment, but in just a year and a half, all that changed. And so now, even in a country obsessed with Maradona for so long, Messi's proved himself as the best around. Football is a beautiful game. The ups and downs are what makes it special. And you have to wonder, had Lionel Messi not faced so many struggles throughout his life and career, would victory in Qatar have tasted so sweet for the man I, and so many others, call the greatest of all time? Thank you guys for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Please follow my Instagram on screen now or link in bio, as well as my Twitter and the HITC TikTok, which should be the same. make sure you like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and comment what video you would like me to do next. Thanks for watching and enjoy your day.